While 85% of employees are disengaged at work right now in 2025, I just discovered that one simple culture framework is generating 8.5 times more revenue per employee for Fortune 500 companies. And here's what's crazy. The companies getting this wrong just lost $13 billion in a single merger because they ignored these 3 cultural principles that I'm about to show you. If you've ever wondered why your team values sound great on paper, but don't actually change how people behave, stay with me. By the end of this video, you'll have the exact decision-making framework that Amazon, Netflix, and Patagonia use to turn abstract values into concrete actions that drive real results. Let's talk about what's really happening in corporate America right now. Employee engagement just hit a 10-year low, with only 23% of workers actively engaged. That's down from 36% in 2020. We're talking about 8 million fewer engaged workers since the pandemic. And here's the kicker. 48% of employees now view their job as purely transactional, just a way to earn money. That's the highest it's ever been measured. The cost of getting this wrong isn't just about HR surveys. When cultures clash during mergers, companies lose billions. The Sprint Nextel merger failed so badly due to culture misalignment that they eventually wrote down 80% of Nextel's value. Boeing's culture breakdown led to safety failures costing them billions in settlements and congressional investigations. These aren't isolated incidents. They're predictable outcomes when leaders treat culture as an afterthought instead of a strategic advantage. Here's what the companies that crack this code understand. Culture isn't built through motivational posters or annual company retreats. Recent research from Harvard Business School shows that companies with strong cultures generate 8.5 times more revenue per employee than the market average. Hilton just became #1 on Fortune's Best Companies to Work For list, and their stock price doubled, while voluntary turnover hit an all-time low. The breakthrough insight came from studying why some companies like Amazon can scale from startup to trillion-dollar enterprise while maintaining their culture, while others fall apart during basic team expansions. It turns out successful leaders don't rely on generic values like integrity and teamwork, because honestly, what company is going to say they're about corruption and selfishness? If you're getting value from these Fortune 500 insights that most leaders never see, hit that subscribe button. We dive deep into executive strategies like this every week, breaking down exactly how successful leaders think and act differently. Instead, they use 3 specific strategies that transform vague ideals into daily decisions. I'm about to show you Amazon's framework that guides real workplace conflicts, Netflix's radical transparency approach and where they draw the line, and how Patagonia's hiring philosophy creates cultural consistency that drives results. Strategy 1 completely flips how most companies think about culture. Instead of starting with abstract values, you start with the actual decisions your people face every day. Here's a real scenario that illustrates this perfectly. Your marketing team discovers potentially negative information about a major client. Do you share this with your sales team, knowing it might cause worry and distraction? Or do you keep quiet to maintain focus, even though rumors will probably spread anyway? Both options seem reasonable, right? Most companies would say, we value transparency and think that solves it. But Amazon took a completely different approach. They created have a backbone, disagree, and commit. When your boss is considering 3 campaign designs and you hate the one she's leaning toward, Amazon's culture gives you unambiguous guidance. Speak up and make your case. The phrase, have a backbone, directly resolves the dilemma. Compare that to typical corporate speak. A major healthcare company recently stated their values as, we care. How we work is just as important as the work we do. Sounds inspiring, but when employees face actual workplace conflicts, asking yourself, should I show that I care? Doesn't provide actionable guidance for specific situations. Pixar mastered this with regularly share unfinished work. When you're an animator with creative work that's good but not polished, should you keep perfecting it or show it to colleagues? Pixar's culture principle resolves this instantly. Share your work now, get feedback early, avoid going down the wrong creative path. Your implementation step: identify the 3 most common decision conflicts your employees face this month. Not abstract scenarios, actual choices that create hesitation or debate. Then craft clear cultural principles that resolve each dilemma with specific guidance. Strategy 2 leverages what neuroscientists call the picture superiority effect. Your brain processes images 60,000 times faster than text and remembers visual information 6 times longer. That's why Amazon's two-pizza rule is more powerful than saying, "We prefer small teams." When you hear two-pizza rule, you instantly visualize 24 teammates fighting over pepperoni slices. That image is impossible to forget, and it gives you an exact metric. If your team can't be fed with 2 pizzas, it's too big. No ambiguity, no interpretation needed. Airbnb took this even further with elephants, dead fish, and vomit. This isn't random, it's cultural genius. Elephants represent obvious problems everyone sees but nobody mentions. Dead fish are issues starting to smell that need immediate attention. Vomit is toxic emotions people need to get out of their system. 3 vivid images, 1 phrase, crystal clear behavioral guidance. Netflix understood this principle when they chose, "Don't seek to please your boss, seek to do what's right for the company," instead of just saying, "Act in the company's best interest." That counterintuitive phrasing stops people mid-thought and forces them to reconsider their default behavior. Quick engagement check. Which strategy resonates most with your current leadership challenges? The decision dilemma method or visual memory techniques? Drop a comment below. And if this analysis is helping you think differently about culture building, smash that like button. Here's why this works so powerfully. When Coach restructured their internal teams using memorable cultural principles that resonated with their target audience, they saw a 332% annual increase in consumer demand. That wasn't luck. It was deliberate cultural alignment creating business results. Your action step: take your most important cultural value and transform it into either a concrete visual image or a counterintuitive phrase that people can't forget. Test it with your team. If they can't repeat it back accurately after 1 week, it's not memorable enough to drive behavior. Strategy 3 is where most companies completely miss the mark. They hire for technical skills and hope culture follows naturally. But remember that $13 billion Sprint Nextel disaster I mentioned? They had perfect strategic synergy on paper, but their cultural misalignment, entrepreneurial khaki culture versus button-down bureaucracy, destroyed the entire merger. Patagonia figured out the solution decades ago. They don't advertise in the Wall Street Journal or hire corporate headhunters. Instead, they recruit through their network of outdoor enthusiasts who love spending time in mountains and rivers. They explicitly state, "We seek out dirtbags who feel more at home in a base camp than in an office. We'll take a risk on an itinerant rock climber over a run-of-the-mill MBA." That's not anti-intellectual bias, that's cultural precision. Patagonia knows that if you hire people whose personalities fundamentally conflict with your environment, no matter what else you optimize, you won't get the behaviors that drive success. But here's the advanced strategy that separates great companies from good ones. They also define where their culture doesn't apply. Netflix pushed transparency further than almost any public company. They shared quarterly financial results with managers before reporting to Wall Street, something that made many observers nervous. However, when Netflix considered full salary transparency for all employees, 80% of managers pushed back, saying it violated individual privacy. Rather than forcing the cultural principle, leadership recognized the boundary. Transparency has come into tension with individual privacy, and in this case, privacy wins. That's cultural maturity, knowing when to push your values and when to recognize natural limits. Compare that to Boeing's culture breakdown, where quality assurance investigators reported hundreds of missing aircraft parts, but the culture had shifted so far toward financial metrics that safety concerns got systematically ignored. Over 50,000 ambitious leaders have joined our community for weekly strategies exactly like this. If you want to think and act like a Fortune 500 executive, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss insights that could transform your leadership approach. Your 2-part implementation. First, define your non-negotiable cultural requirements for hiring. What personality traits simply won't thrive in your specific environment? Be as explicit as Patagonia about who fits and who doesn't. Second, identify the boundaries of your strongest cultural values. When should your core principles bend to other important considerations? Here's your step-by-step action plan to implement these strategies starting this week. Because the data shows companies with strong cultures achieve 85% higher net profit growth over 5 years. And that competitive advantage starts with your very next hiring decision and team meeting. Phase 1, the 30-day decision audit. Document the 3 biggest choice dilemmas your team faces monthly. Don't guess based on assumptions. Survey your employees, observe actual conflicts, track decisions that generate the most debate or hesitation. Create a decision diary to capture real workplace scenarios as they happen. Phase 2, Principle Creation Workshop. For each documented dilemma, craft a clear resolution principle like Amazon's Have a Backbone or Pixar's Share Unfinished Work. Test these with your leadership team first, ensuring each principle provides unambiguous guidance for the specific situations your people encounter daily. Phase 3. The Memorability Challenge. Transform your clearest principle into either a concrete visual image or counterintuitive phrase. Remember, if it's not as instantly memorable as two pizza rule or elephants, dead fish and vomit, it won't influence behavior when people are under pressure making quick decisions. Phase 4. Hiring Process Revolution. Completely rewrite your job descriptions and interview questions to screen for cultural alignment before technical skills. Design behavioral scenarios that reveal whether candidates naturally think and act in ways that support your cultural principles, not just whether they can do the technical work. Phase 5. Boundary Documentation. Clearly define where your culture doesn't apply and when your strongest values need to bend for other priorities. Document these exceptions explicitly so employees don't feel confused when leadership makes decisions that seem to contradict established cultural principles. Track these specific metrics to measure cultural transformation success. Employee retention rates by cultural fit score, time to hire for positions with cultural requirements, decision-making speed on common workplace dilemmas, and voluntary turnover rates compared to industry benchmarks. Before you implement these strategies, help other leaders discover this approach. Hit that like button if this was valuable, subscribe for more executive insights every week, and share this with someone who's struggling with team alignment or employee engagement. Which strategy challenges your current approach to culture most? Are you relying on abstract values when you should be solving specific decision dilemmas? Are your cultural principles forgettable instead of sticky and memorable? Or are you hiring for technical skills while completely ignoring cultural fit? Let me know in the comments which strategy you're implementing first. I read every single response and often reply with additional insights. Join our community of 50,000+ leaders who are transforming their organizations with Fortune 500 strategies. Subscribe for weekly breakdowns of how successful executives really think and operate, and hit that notification bell so you get these insights as soon as they're published. Remember, culture isn't what you display on office walls, it's what happens when those values collide with real decisions under pressure. The companies that understand this fundamental difference are the ones that thrive while their competitors struggle with engagement, retention, and performance challenges. If you want to think and act like a Fortune 500 executive, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss insights that could transform your leadership approach.